2020 Spiritual Vision is the CSL theme for the year. February's theme is Seeing Through the Eyes of Love. Today's topic is the blessing of relationships. Brené Brown wrote, "We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, be loved, and to belong." Gay and Kathleen Hendricks, in their book Conscious Loving, The Journey of Co-Commitment, write, "Love is a powerful force. If we do not know how to handle its power, we slip very quickly into its powerfully painful distortions, such as conflict and codependence. But know this, it is a resistance to love that causes the problems. There is nothing wrong with love. Love is a force that focuses its light on the deepest, shadowy parts of ourselves. The most creative and evolved people we know use every situation as an opportunity to learn about themselves. Openness to learning is a hallmark of evolution. With a strong commitment to inquiring into yourself, the universe does not have to use catastrophes to wake you up. Let us raise ourselves in the vibration of love by saying out loud together, everywhere I look, I see the face of God. I see all beings through the eyes of love. I walk the path of loving kindness, realizing that by treating others with loving kindness, I am being loving and kind to myself."
Am I on? Oh, there we go. A Native American grandfather was talking to his grandson, and he was saying, "I feel as if there are two wolves in my heart fighting for the right to be in my heart. One wolf is violent, angry, and vengeful, and the other one is compassionate and loving." And so the grandson says, "Well, which one will win?" To which he replied, "The one that I feed." So what does that speak to? That speaks to choice, that we have a choice. And so this topic today is the blessing of relationships and the awareness that in the choice of, with every relationship, we have a choice to feed the anger, the patterning from the past is what it is really. Or we feed love and compassion, which is being in the present moment, and it's a choice to be who we really are in truth. So in choosing love, here's the thing. We think it's about the other person. and truly, in choosing love, we are cultivating the most important relationship in our lives, which is the one we have with ourselves. Because if we do create this love, and this is what Marianne was talking about, if we do create this loving relationship with ourselves, and we can do that through relationship, but if we keep in mind that this is what we're doing, we're cultivating love with ourselves, that's what brings true happiness. It just goes back to what we've talked about over and over again, that we don't find love outside of ourselves. We extend love, but love is in the very core and center of our being. And I'm reminded I was recently reading a portion of A Course in Miracles, and it talked about the two ways in which we use that energy within us, in the heart. It's either extending love or it's projecting our patterns, our unconscious patterns onto other people. So it's either one or the other. It's either projection or extension. And again, we get to choose. And maybe not in the moment when we're reacting, but if we realize, if we can learn to be the observer and realize that if I'm reacting, then, then I have some things to look at in myself. So relationships then, here's the thing. So if we cultivate this inner relationship, which brings true happiness, this is a key point that I want to make. This is the foundation for truly beautiful, healthy relationships with others. So relationships, we've heard this before too. Relationships are mirrors, right? In Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes writes that the mirror reflects. The mirror reflects. You cannot scratch the reflection out of the mirror, but you are the image maker. So you can change the inner patterns and reflect new patterns. This requires deliberate application of the theories of how this works if we are to receive happy results. I'm doing a little adaptation so that, because the way he says it is not always really clear. So, and he says, for theories are no good unless they are applied. So again, it just calls us into action, into really putting these principles that we teach into action in our lives. So we subconsciously attract to us people who mirror back to us the things that are hidden in our subconscious mind, again, based on past conditioning. And this past conditioning, we must remember, goes all the way back to childhood, to family of origin, and things that happened when we were a child, when we were really, really impressionable, when our subconscious mind was wide open and taking it all in. So this is not about blaming anyone in the past, because one of the things that we learned in parenting education is that children are great observers, but often poor interpreters of what's going on. So again, it goes back to us taking responsibility for our inner world so that we can bring the love that we are into the present moment. So looking inward then at things that we sometimes hide from ourselves and from others, we open ourselves to exceptional growth. Exceptional growth. And I'm emphasizing that because the more that we do this, and this is we do it with self-compassion, right? I mean, that's the key. If we do it with self-judgment, it's not going to work. But if we do it with self-compassion, realizing, okay, let me look at this, but being very loving with myself, then exceptional growth can take place and true transformation. So relationships then are blessings. They're blessings. They're mirrors that function as springboards to higher consciousness and enhanced creative expression. Relationships that recycle drama. Let's talk about that for a moment, because that's codependence. You know, those of us who've been in this teaching for a long time or in the fields of addiction, we know that codependence is the recycling of drama, where we are, and this is the way the Hendricks described it, we are chained together facing our past childhood conditioning. It's like we're holding hands, looking at the past conditioning and functioning in that way. So who among us wants to stay stuck in drama? Anybody raising their hands? I don't see anybody. So if we don't choose that, then the choice is conscious, loving relationship with others. It's important to face our conditioning with compassion, as I said before, and take responsibility for healing it. And here's the thing, when we choose conscious, loving relationship, we are in the present holding hands, facing the future. Facing the future. So there's a whole different orientation. Conscious loving relationships then are dedicated to removing all of the barriers to love. Dedicated to removing all the barriers to love. Let's breathe that in. That's what we're here. That's why we're here, and as spiritual community is to offer that for each other. So the infinite source then is love. We go back to that. So therefore, our essence is love. Our essence is love. And the Hendricks say that when you feel your feelings fully, which I'll get to in a few moments, when you allow yourself to feel your feelings fully, you always get back to the essence, which is love, because love is underneath all of that emotion that we sometimes have. So I can't tell you how long I've been studying relationship or love, spirituality, radical forgiveness. I have my master's in counseling. I have my undergraduate in psychology. I have been studying this for years, this whole thing of relationship and interrelationship and relationship with others around us. And I'm conscious of is there are still areas for me to grow. There's still areas for me to grow. I mean, I'm being very honest with you. One of my key areas is wanting to please other people and wanting other people's approval, which sometimes means that I don't enter into challenging conversations with others. And then when I finally do, it's sometimes doesn't go as well as I'd like it to. So this is something I understand about myself, and I continue to work on, is how to speak my truth and stay grounded and rooted in love. So here's the thing about the Hendricks book on conscious loving that they make very, very clear, and that is that it does not require that the other person, the ideal is that the other person is also co-committed to the same thing you are, right? That you're in the present and you're facing the future. The truth is, though, if the other person isn't willing to do that, and they're just not interested, or if you don't have a partner, but you have plenty of other people to relate to, so it works for any time you relate with other people, that's fine. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you make a commitment to live in this way, to choose love. And by modeling this for others, then we invite them. We know we can't make them, but we invite them to come around and be with us in a conscious loving relationship. Because again, it's all about the relationship with ourselves, which is the foundation for relationship with others. So we don't have to wait for other people to change. So let's talk about this thing called, relationships have great joy in them. I totally want to acknowledge that. The other blessing, though, that we're talking about today is the way in which relationships trigger the shadowy and fearful, angry parts of ourselves and of our conditioned mind. And so, the tendency is to want to retreat or blame others, which feeds, of course, the wolf of fear and anger. And if we shine the light, though, on our past conditioning, we're choosing love. We're feeding love. So it really helps to know, what does a codependent relationship look like? Because if we understand that, then we know where to move forward, and we can catch it when we see ourselves involved in it. So here are some of the features of a codependent relationship. It's when you let others get away with killing themselves. In other words, indulging in their patterns of addiction without speaking up, which is enabling. When you seek friends who support your destructive habits. When you replay your parents' dysfunctional patterns in your current relationships. And here's another one that's really interesting. You know you're in a codependent relationship when peace and calm feels uncomfortable. When peace and calm feels uncomfortable. Because, and I saw this so clearly in a movie some time ago called Down the Rabbit Hole. Anybody see that movie? It was, yeah, some time ago. They showed how people get addicted to adrenaline, to the fight or flight response. They're literally addicted to it. So when there's peace and calm, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something to get that adrenaline going again because this peace and calm does not feel good to me. So that's another one. When you notice yourself in that when peace and calm feels uncomfortable. You know you're in a codependent relationship when you keep messing up, which feeds feelings of shame, guilt, and self-hate. When you withdraw without telling the other person what's going on. When you find fault. When you numb out feelings with food, drink, and other addictions. And when you start an argument. Or when the other person starts an argument, you know, it goes both ways. Because you see, relationships require closeness. And the hallmark of the codependent relationship is that there is a resistance to closeness. And why? Because there's a belief that what if they know the real me? Guess what? The real you is perfect love, whole, perfect, and complete. That's the way you combat that self-talk that says, "Oh my gosh, what if they get to know the real me?" Or the other way of avoiding closeness or the belief is, what if I lose myself in the other person? When in truth, close relationships are an opportunity to shine the light on what the barriers are to love, to help to free you. The other one, the final one, is unforgiveness, which is anger and hurt from the past. And we know the truth about forgiveness is that it frees the one who forgives. And it invites the other person to be free as well. So closeness, then, is one of the keys of conscious, loving relationships. They are holy encounters, opportunities to heal the belief in separation by shining the light on the barriers to love. So the Hendricks offer these as commitments for conscious, loving relationships. Clearing up anything in the way of my ability to be close, commitment to my inner growth, commitment to myself and revealing myself in relationships, commitment to full empowerment of people around me, commitment to acting from the awareness that I am 100% the source of my reality, and having a good time in my close relationships. I like the last one the best. So then there's this thing called the upper limits problem. So I want to talk about that a little bit more because this is one of the hallmarks of their teaching. And it goes with what I was talking about before, being addicted to adrenaline and lower frequencies. And so when we realize that all of this is really about an upper limits problem, it's about being conditioned or wired to function at a certain emotional level that doesn't really serve us. And so in order to move beyond that into the and have a set point, a higher set point of joy, peace, and love, it requires that we are willing, when we enter, well, you know, to take responsibility, as we talked about, for our own growth, but when we are in relationship, that there are three basic requirements that they say that are involved in truly reprogramming, rewiring ourselves for love, peace, and joy. And the first one is feel your feelings fully. Feel your feelings fully. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it's a little scary to really feel our feelings fully, particularly if we're angry, and sometimes fearful. But that's the commitment, because remember, if we allow ourselves to do that, it doesn't stay stuck in our bodies. and it doesn't therefore become a barrier between ourselves and others. Feel our feelings fully. Now, this doesn't mean that we lash out at the other person, but it does mean that we allow ourselves to feel them in our bodies. The next one is to tell the microscopic truth. This is, those of us who studied iMessages, a long time ago, it's the same thing. Learning how to communicate our emotions and our thoughts without blaming the other person. That's a challenge when we're in the midst of a lot of emotion, and yet it's really an important skill to maintain and sustain, because when we tell the microscopic truth, and I'll give you an example. This is one that the Hendricks gave. So, where is it? When you said that you were going away, I felt tightness in my chest, and I thought, he is abandoning me. So you reveal your thoughts, and just the way the thoughts came through and what the feelings are. Now, when you said you were going away, that's not blaming. It's just saying this is the sequence of events. It's very different from saying, well, you made me, because when you say you made me, you're not going to get anywhere. So this is really about that. And so what this does is it opens us to a shift in perception, to being able to look at our thoughts, feel our feelings, and make a new choice. Say, oh, well, that perspective is not serving me. Maybe there's another perspective. So it really opens us to shift into a higher frequency and to experience love. The last one is keeping our agreements. So why don't we keep our agreements? The Hendricks have a theory. They say that it's unhealed anger at past authority figures that causes us to break agreements with our current relationships. That it's unhealed anger toward authority figures. So what we do, though, is when we break agreements, we decrease our aliveness. It's like pulling the plug on our aliveness. When we keep our agreements, it increases aliveness. And of course, you can always renegotiate agreements, but the key is that keeping agreements increases aliveness. It's the opposite of what you might think. So those are the three things. Feel your feelings, tell the microscopic truth, and keep your agreements. If we can remember that, we can learn to establish higher frequencies of not only consciousness, but along with that, higher feeling states in our being. So instead of the urge to engage in drama by numbing out, by lying, by breaking agreements or hiding feelings, there's an urge to grow in love. And we literally rewire our psychobiology for love, peace, and joy. Greater aliveness. Positive energy then becomes our norm. It's the way that we normally show up. So relationships then are holy encounters. They help keep us in a higher state of consciousness. They help us establish higher states of consciousness. They heal the belief in separation when we understand that our part in it is to choose love. When two or more people choose to engage in supporting each other and healing the separation, revealing love and wholeness, they are in a conscious, loving relationship. And that is what our spiritual community is all about. That's what we're here for. That's why we say over and over again, every Sunday, we're here to be the presence of love and to co-create heaven on earth. And so what I'd like, and of course, the other part of it too is relationships are for having fun. And we know how to do that here too. So stay with me as we conclude this beautiful affirmation that the Hendricks have offered us. And it goes like this: I am willing to expand continuously
Willing to expand continuously
in positive energy with positive results
positive results
for myself and others.
for myself and others.
And then I have another one that I'd like you to add to this. I am willing to see myself as divine love
I am willing to see myself as divine love
and grow through all of my relationships.
and grow through all of my relationships.
Feels good, huh? Okay, so let's just affirm it together with a yes, and so it is. Thank you.